All right, I want to bring in now Renee Viellaris. She's political editor at the Courier-Mail. There's a whole lot of issues, Renee, that I want to get across, but let's start with the High Court ruling. Huge amount of debate about it. It's outside too, importantly, the legal circles. Yes, they're talking about it, but the community have had a lot to say. I've listened to a fair bit of talkback right around the country. I've read what's in the newspapers about the changes that will now come out of the High Court's landmark decision. What did you make of it?
Yes, it was always going to be polarising, wasn't it, this decision? But I think what it has done, it's going to make constitutional recognition that much harder now. When the government proceeds to put up a question that they take to the people in a referendum, I think they're in a hiding to nothing now, because this type of stuff enrages people, because it's seen as going too far. It doesn't pass the pub test, and I think, you know, having two sets of rules are different. Fundamentally, Australians don't like that.
No, and I don't think they like that there are laws now, and it's the High Court, so it has heavy precedent, can only be overturned by another decision of the full bench, or indeed a constitutional referendum if that was to get up. But I think the Australians like laws that are now very racially motivated, and this is very much a racially motivated law.
Yeah, and I think most people have an opinion on it because it's very easy to understand. It's not an abstract kind of, you know, decision by the High Court. It's something that's very easy to understand. And at a time when, you know, this government's very strong on borders, kicking out 5,000 people that have broken the law that shouldn't be here, this just seems far-fetched, farcical, and it also goes to your point about activist judges. This is not a black letter type of decision. This is a decision where it seems that they're trying to creep or make up for decisions they think should be happening in this space, in this social space. And I think, you know, the government can't let this stand. There's going to have to be some kind of reaction. Look, how can you let this stand? It's got to change.
Yeah, well, see, the government has said to date that it's taking legal advice. It will consider its avenues, whether or not it pursues changes to law, potentially, or a referendum. But I think your strongest point is that for all the debate about constitutional recognition, or in the case of the government who want to pursue the legislative addition of a voice to Parliament for Indigenous Australians, I think both of those causes are put back. I still, for the life of me, cannot understand why the Prime Minister is allowing Ken Wyatt to pursue this voice to the Parliament when Wyatt has admitted, the Prime Minister has admitted, it would never be supported or not likely to be supported by the Australian people via referendum, so they're going to legislate it anyway, knowing that the people don't want it and wouldn't vote for it in a referendum. But I think coming at a time when there's all these divisions inside the National Party, trying to get corralled National Party and Liberal MPs to vote for something that I think would be a tough sell in their constituencies, I think it's a terrible time for the government, and this decision makes it even harder.
Yeah, I think too, Wyatt's on a hiding to nothing though. I can't see him getting much traction on all the things that he's trying to achieve. Last year, I think it was last year, someone leaked me a copy of legislation he had put to the Prime Minister. He was the aged care minister, but
that's correct.
And put together, you know, his own Makarrata. That's right. And so, you know, he's been angling for this position for a long time. The question about Ken Wyatt too is, you know, why is he there? There are strong rumours that, you know, that Ken is in cabinet because he, you know, made some demands on the Prime Minister. You know, and going into the election was going to be tough. And, you know, Ken clearly wanted to be in cabinet and be the Indigenous Affairs Minister. You know, I don't think Ken Wyatt is the right person for the job. They always say that, you know, do you really want a doctor as your health minister? I think Ken is torn, and it's very hard for Ken in this space. He's an academic. One of my first jobs as a journalist 20 years ago was in the Torres Strait. And I can tell you that, you know, even now when I touch base backwards and forwards, this stuff doesn't come up. It's about water, it's about infrastructure, it's about getting kids to school, it's about practical issues that face them. It's not about this type of stuff. I mean, this stuff is for the academics and the armchair critics who live in the cities.
And it's for the well-funded machine that is political activism. I think you're absolutely right. And look at the stats in the Closing the Gap. If we're spending billions and billions and billions, and right across all levels of government, it is about $30 billion a year. If we are spending all of that money and we still have these parlous statistics again reinforced today, that's the real tragedy and nothing much else. The National Party about to celebrate, commiserate probably with the current move, 100 years as a political party. Now, that is a milestone that should be recognised. It's not many parties that get to 100 years in Australia. It's certainly older than the Liberal Party. There is some controversy, however, about the timing of a meeting scheduled just in and around these celebrations that would enable all the National Party MPs to get their flights paid for by the taxpayer to attend the party meeting, and they just happen to stay a little bit longer for the celebrations. Is that how I read it?
Yeah, so basically Parliament would have sat the week before, they would have had their party room meeting. There was someone from the National Party's office who texted the Chief of Staff of Michael McCormack and said, you know, why is there a party room meeting scheduled on Friday the 13th in March in Melbourne when we just would have had one just days ago? And the reply from the COS was, in essence, this has been done to activate travel entitlements for all members and senators attending the function. I mean, that does not pass the pub test. It shows that they're setting up a faux meeting just so parliamentarians, some who earn $350,000 a year, don't have to put their hand in their pocket to pay for a flight or stay in a hotel. Now, this is what really irritates the Australian public. This is why they get fed up with politicians. You know, they earn so much more than so many other Australians, yet they still have their snouts in the trough. But this comes down to more than just, you know, trying to live off the taxpayer. This comes down to integrity, but also it's actually about the leak, the explosive leak that shows that the divisions within the National Party are not over. They will continue. It's like Michael McCormack will, you know, die a death of 1,000 cuts. It kind of reminds me of that, what was it, Monty Python, you know, where the guy's got no arms, no legs, and he's still saying it's a flesh wound. I think Michael McCormack's days are numbered.
Yeah, look, if they were smart, why wouldn't they just have the celebrations in Canberra? The MPs are there quite legitimately for a parliamentary session. They could stay the weekend and avoid going home and having to travel again under their own coin. I think it's madness. I think it's the last thing the National Party need at the moment. But, you know, it also tells you, doesn't it, how quickly this has leaked, that these emails or text messages have also been provided to the media, how much a disharmony there is inside their ranks, that this stuff continually is coming to light. And we also saw, it just came up on the screen there, all further sort of entitlement allegations against Michael McCormack. They look to me to be above board in a technical entitlement sense, but again, your pub test would probably say they need another look at them carefully. Just before we go, I noted that One Nation had signed the notice of motion in relation to Matthias Cormann, but they didn't vote in accordance to the motion. What happened there?
So Pauline Hanson signed it with a number of other crossbenchers and Labor yesterday. But after Pauline Hanson spoke to a number of other crossbenchers, she changed her mind. So that basically saved Matthias Cormann's skin, because their 2 votes were crucial. I think this stunt is actually quite disgusting. Matthias Cormann is there because he was voted in by the Australian people. No one should have the power to remove him from his position except for the Australian people. It shouldn't be, you know, silly buggers in the Senate trying to, you know, stop him from doing his job, from answering. You take him out of the Senate, he can't answer your questions. I mean, it's just ridiculous. And I think,
that's too much
Hanson
common
in the end
sense,
made the right
Renee.
call.
That's far too much common sense. That's far too much common sense. And I love the term silly buggers. I haven't heard that in a while. I've got to leave it there. Renee Viellaris, as always, thanks very much for your time.